All right, thank you everyone for coming to the house of Peggy built. We have the diva of digestion, Brenda Watson, amazing. And that's all I need to say because she's amazing, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Thank you guys for having me, and I'm going to talk about a lot of different things this evening, and this has been a great experience today, and I'll tell you why. Coming into Peggy's, and known them for many, many years, and I've been in the industry 30 years, so a long time that I've been doing digestion. But today was a special day because I had two people come in, and one that just left that said amazing things to me that I didn't know that I had saved their life. And I was like, oh, okay, and I had no expectation on that. They just walked in, and obviously I had spoken here last year and gotten them on a program, and they followed up and did it. Who'd have thunk, right? And they got better and better and better. And another lady, a customer that just left, wasn't going to stay, but she just came to tell me that I had saved her life too. And she had IBS, a lot of IBS issues, and through working through the programs, I'm pretty much with working with digestive care and digestive products, I like programs for people, like they, you know, whatever they're doing with their diet, what supplements they need, work them through a program. It takes a little bit of time, but a lot of times when people have gotten ill, it didn't happen overnight. And so healing it takes a little bit more time. And if I can find someone that has that patience, you know, and they feel bad enough, they want to feel better, and that's the key to it. So this evening I'm going to be sharing information just in general about us as human beings and what generally happens to us when our health starts taking the downward turn. And you know, I'll say in today's world, you know, we used to think, well, as we age, things get worse. And they do. That is true. They sometimes do. However, today what I'm seeing is our children are having so many issues with autoimmune and their digestive system. So it's becoming more that we're passing it on, so to speak. And so that's very disheartening. I was telling them I'm working with 3 people right now with teenagers and young people with fatty liver and elevated liver enzymes. And I'm thinking 14 years old, you know, this is a very young to start. So I'm doing something this evening. I'm going to try to look at, you know, where we have come and give you some way to identify where you are. Because most of the time when I do lectures and things like that, people come either most of the time because they have a problem and they're searching for solutions. That's one reason they come. The second reason is they have a friend or family member who's having problems and they want to help them. Or the third reason, which is smaller, is people feel good and want to stay that way and stay off of medication. That's the third way, but again, that's the smaller percentage of people. So looking at myself, I started healing myself way, way long ago, and in the 1980s, and I had had a childhood of tons of antibiotics. And by the time I was probably 2, I was already autoimmune, and did not know that. This is back in the early 50s, so I didn't know I had autoimmune. I just knew that my mom always introduced me as her sick child. I was always the one that had all these problems, but I lived on antibiotics. And so I didn't know anything different other than until I probably got up into my 20s, still having many health problems, but I didn't start working on it until probably the late 80s. And I started changing my diet. I actually walked into a health food store in the late 80s and said, I need help because I'm doing traditional medicine and it doesn't work. Well, back then, we didn't have functional medicine and integrative doctors. We had a lot of them that were transitioning at the time, but not a plethora of them like we have now. So my only solution was walking into a health food store and saying, give me something to read, help me with whatever I need. And so through diet changes, lifestyle changes, and supplementation, I began to get better. And over the years, I wanted to help others. because of that. I had many gut problems, and when I started teaching gut health, it was in 1992. Well, guess what? It was weird back then, if you're talking about gut problems and cleansing and probiotics. We didn't even have the name probiotics back then, right? And poo, right. So anyway, that's how I started, and then in the early 90s, I had 5 natural health clinics, and I did detoxification programs there and all sorts of modalities, and so that's how I learned. That was my basis. I had medical doctors that were in practice with me, and they were transitioning at the time into alternative, we called it alternative integrative medicine, and today that is flourishing. Of course, what happens with most people, unfortunately, is in the functional medicine doctor world, it's cash for the most part, and it's extremely expensive. So I have people all the time that call me, and they have some type of problem, and I'm like, it would be best, I tell them, unless you have cash, that you try to work it out for yourself. You know what I mean? Read, understand, analyze yourself, and through diet changes and lifestyle changes, and knowing and actually working on your gut first, then you'll get better. Because I can't imagine today, other than walking into a functional medicine doctor with, you can get some of your lab work paid for, if it's LabCorp or Quest or something like that. However, a lot of the labs that they use, our traditional insurance does not cover it. And so when I talk to people about it, I'm like, you're going to have to walk in there with about $3,000 to $5,000 in cash, because otherwise they're cash, and that's the way it is. So people that come into the health food store that are looking for answers and solutions to whatever's going on with them, I think sometimes that's a good way to do it, because you understand yourself. And if you can take the information, read the books that all of us write in this industry, then you can kind of get a good basis on what's going on with you, but you have to start eating better. That is number one, and that's what I had to do. I had to start eating better to get my health turned around. That was number one. So if you look at me, I've been teaching this for 30 years, a long, long time. And
You look great.
well, thank you. Thank you. I founded a line of supplements back in 1996. Like I said, I had 5 natural health clinics through the late 80s into the late 90s. And in 96, 97, I founded a company called Renew Life. And then from there, had that company for 20 years. And then that company was sold. And then I thought I would, everybody said, oh, you should retire. Guess what? I can't.
No.
I just cannot retire. I love this industry. I love the natural health food stores, and I want to keep them alive because it saved my life. That's what saved my life. So we're trying in this world to keep these guys, these type of community stores where you can come in and get good information, good foods, things like that, changing that. And I know that people sitting in this room frequent this store because you wouldn't know I was here otherwise. So it's really good to have you here and that you're searching and looking for answers, because you can do it yourself if you try. You really can. So I started in about the year 2000 writing books. That's when my book writing started. And then over the years in 2004, I started doing PBS TV, and I did about 6 or 7 shows over the 20-year period. We have one out now called Gut Check, and that's how that started, and with each show I wrote a book. So that I have about 7 or 8 books out at this time, and continuing to work with PBS because it's a good measure. We have the people that watch PBS are usually our age, they're baby boomers. So it's really good to have them have the show on there, because you people take charge and start doing something about your health, probably because you've been sick long enough, right? I don't know, but anyway, I want to talk tonight about you and where are you in your health. And about, I don't know, probably 15 years ago, I woke up and I had this idea. I get ideas about 4 o'clock in the morning. That's not a great time, I will tell you. But I get ideas, and I came up with this idea of the health continuum. Because I'm very close to consumers like you. I'm very close to that because I've lectured over the years thousands and thousands of people. So I wanted to be able to work and identify, I started this health continuum to show you, where are you in your health? Where are you? Which way are you heading? Are you heading up in the direction of high energy, or are you heading down here to chronic disease? So you're somewhere on these arrows, on this continuum. Where is that? So if you look at that, you know where you're headed based on your symptoms. Your symptoms are going to tell you, are you just having a gut symptom, or has it already bled over into other organs, into your skin, into all these areas? We don't typically think that you have a gut problem, but you do. And many times people who have skin issues will say to me, well, I didn't feel like I had a gut problem, but you did. And something triggered that gut problem that eventually overflowed into other health issues for you. So we're going to look tonight at which way you're heading. Are you heading up? Or are you already somewhere on those lower rungs down there? So if we look at it, if we look at lack of awareness in the spiral going down, the lack of awareness. One thing I could say, if you're sitting in here this evening, you're trying to become more aware, because all the things with diet are so confusing. And today we have all the food tribes, right? Everybody's got a different plan. Everybody's got a different way to eat. You have to figure that out for yourself. Now we have suggestions that we'll make as time goes on. So how did you get here? But they said this food was good and healthy, and most of the food in here is good and healthy. However, you can't eat too much of anything, or it can be unhealthy. So that's a very good awareness to have. So the first thing that begins to happen when we start going down the continuum to the bottom is we have an imbalance of our gut microbiome. What does that mean? That means that your gut microbiome is the collective gut bacteria you have in your digestive system. So you have 3 kinds of bacteria in the gut. You have the good guys, we call probiotics. You have neutral bacteria, that's just part of the mix, and you have some negative bacteria, all of us do. So in your microbiome, you want balance. So you want the good guys to control that environment, and that makes you healthy. So is your gut biome, imbalance of your gut biome starting to happen? So why does that occur? Well, it occurs because we have habits that we have over a period of time that become a problem. Whether it's an eating habit or a stress habit or some type of habit that you have over time that causes you a problem. So what is that? One of them could be you have indigestion, you have heartburn, you have reflux, you have GERD. Some of these are the common ones that we get into, and that means that's a big signal that something's out of balance. But typically what we do is go to the doctor or we go to the drugstore and we buy heartburn medication, or we buy acid blockers. That's what we typically do. That's the first step in a big, big problem. Because if you continue to take those over a period of time, you're going to have an imbalanced gut microbiome. So one of the things that happens is we have low, I'll give a point to this, we have low stomach acid.
Look at the computer.
Huh? Quick at where?
Look at the computer, I think.
Oh, click.
Point it, I think.
Oh.
Or hit your arrow.
Yeah, it's
Hit
okay.
your
We
arrow.
got it.
Did I get it? Huh?
Now hit your arrow to the next slide. There you go.
Okay, now I'm going to use this because I want to finish talking about this. Okay, so here's a tip, a big tip. Do not lay down with food in your stomach, you are going to eventually have a problem. Now, I'm not saying you can't have a little bit of food in your stomach, but don't go eat a big meal as you get older and lay down, because you're eventually going to have GERD. It's just the nature of the beast. The other thing that we get into, like I talked before, is low stomach acid, but we think it's high stomach acid. So then we go and kill the rest of the stomach acid that was already low, and then all this bacteria and negative pathogens that we eat on our food every day or we take in can go in through your stomach and get into your intestines, and that's the beginning of the end, is all this negative pathogenic bacteria. The other thing that happens is when you lie down, this colon here, if you lie down and you've got a full stomach, the colon can actually go backwards. It can move backwards. It's called bacterial migration or reverse peristalsis. So all that bacteria that's here in this colon, when you lay down and you've got a lot of food there, and I'm talking about over time, it happens over time, then all that bacteria that's in that colon starts backing up into the small intestine. And when that happens, we have another symptom called gas and bloating. So your gas and bloating that's coming here is from bacteria, negative bacteria that was in your colon most of the time, that has migrated up into the small intestine, sitting right here by your liver. Your liver's right here. That bacteria is in the small intestine right here, and it ferments, and it causes gas. Fermentation causes gas. The gas that it causes is called methane. Guess what methane does? It creates non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It doesn't mean you drink alcohol, but you're making it. So those are the three things that I see. You eat and lay down with a lot of food on your stomach. You end up with low stomach acid, because stomach acid, guys, as we age, goes down. I mean, we don't do anything at 30 that we do at 60. It's just different. So we have to take extra care. Then we have this bacterial migration that occurs. So we got bacteria that should just be in your colon that's now migrated all over your small intestine, and it's causing problems. So that's part of it. Now, what's the first sign? You start having gas and bloating. Some of you may have constipation, some of you may have diarrhea, or you fluctuate back and forth from one to the other. How many people in the audience have a digestive symptom, like gas and bloating, constipation, those types of things?
Yeah.
Okay, heartburn and reflux. I know you're in the audience. So what we do, like I said, is the first sign of that. Many people, now if you've been acclimated to a health food store, you may walk in here and say, I need a digestive enzyme, or they'll move you towards a digestive enzyme or a probiotic. But most of the time, the people that I speak to that end up on acid blockers like Nexium and those types of products, they've gone straight to the drugstore, killed the acid, like I said, and what that means is they've opened their whole gut to pathogens. That is always going to be a problem for you. So those are some of the things that happen. Then we continue over time. So that's the kind of the beginning. That's just a few of them, but there's more. But that just gives you an eye-opener on why it starts. Some of you may have migraine headaches, or you may have headaches or skin problems. What are you going to do then? Go get the NSAIDs, the ibuprofen, and those types of things, and that ruins your gut even further. So that's the way it starts. Now, if it continues, because you're not aware, goes back to this awareness, if this continues over time, then you're going to have more problems, because the gut becomes out of balance. And in every digestive system, we have something called opportunistic bacteria. Now, in an ideal world, like I said, your good bacteria keeps everything balanced. But throw in a round of antibiotics. Throw in that. That's just life, folks. And then the next thing that begins to happen is you begin to have a candida overgrowth, which is yeast. And it's not a good yeast, because we have good yeast in the microbiome, but we have a lot of bad yeast in us. bad yeast likes sugar and simple carbs. So what does that yeast do? It's opportunistic, so it begins to multiply. And as the yeast multiplies, then it begins to take over more and more of your microbiome, this balance of good to bad bacteria. Then we begin to have more of parasites. I know people, how many people in this audience have cleansed?
I've done everything.
How many people are still interested in cleansing? See, I told you. I'm doing these lectures, and you know, I've been in cleansing for years, 30 years, and I've never seen so many people interested in it. I mean, we had big interest in it in the 90s all the way through maybe 2010 or something like that, I think, and then it just went down. Are you guys on TikTok? Really? So we have this continued imbalance, and that brings up parasites can become an invader. Leaky gut. Do you know what leaky gut is? It's when the digestive lining of your gut is supposed to be like the screen on the window of your house. It lets air in, keeps bugs out. What happens with leaky gut is the gut wall, your small intestine and large intestine, the wall opens, the lining of the gut opens up. So guess what enters your bloodstream? Anything and everything that's passing through your digestive tract. It could be bacteria, it could be undigested protein, it can be the grains that you're eating. That's why people get more sensitive to gluten, because due to the leaky gut, those proteins have leaked into your bloodstream, circulated around your body for a long period of time, and created an immune response. So your immune responses are what build you up into autoimmune. Is there anyone in the audience already experiencing autoimmune?
What does that mean?
It means that your immune system has turned on itself and attacked itself. So you end up with things like lupus, or you could have many autoimmune conditions. I'm trying to think of all the ones. Arthritis can be rheumatoid arthritis. These types of conditions can come from thyroid. The big thing now is the autoimmune thyroid. You know, Hashimoto's or some of those types of thyroid conditions. So autoimmune is pretty rampant in the world. So we look at this continued imbalance, and then what happens is we found through science, okay, that we have, in this microbiome, we have thousands of strains of bacteria. And hopefully, in most of us, we want them to be the good guys. However, over time, what scientists have found at Stanford and some of the microbiologists that have been working on the microbiome project, because what happened is, in about 2004 or 5, the National Institutes of Health said, we want to study the effect of good bacteria on the health of the human body. So they took a boatload of money and they began to give it to the universities and the microbiologists in the universities to be able to study gut bacteria. And that's why you see all of this information flowing over the internet about this strain does this strain does that, because now we've got more and more science on these different strains. But what they have found by researching it is, they went to, let me go back. We want to have diversity. We want to have a lot of different strains in us, because that's the way we're born. However, what they started seeing in the Western population was they were studying the stool. That's how they tell it. They do stool analysis on people. And they were seeing that the stool analysis was showing there were strains of bacteria that were very beneficial for our health in the Western world that disappeared. They're just gone. So then they started saying, is there anywhere in the world where there are people with high diversity and many strains of good bacteria? So they started going to Africa and South America and Mexico. That's where the tribes are still left of your hunter-gatherers. And so they studied the poo of the hunter-gatherers and found, holy crap, they've got a lot of diversity. And you know why? Because their diet is high in fiber. And fiber feeds the good bacteria. However, get someone over here to think about getting more than 15 to 20 grams of fiber in their diet every day, and it's a real hard thing to do because you have to, you have to eat a lot of vegetables. However, even in eating a lot of vegetables and things like that, you getting 30 grams of fiber in your diet every day, they were getting 50 or 60. We're not even getting 15. So how do you feed the good bacteria when you don't get enough fiber in your diet? You cannot eat enough food to get 30 grams of fiber in your diet every day, in my opinion. It's a lot of food. So we do have to have some supplemental fiber. However, many of you have gone to the drugstore and bought psyllium fiber.
So bad.
I know, so bad. You know why? Because it increases your gas and bloating.
Right.
And so that's been a bad thing that's happened to people. We have good fibers today that don't cause that, so that's another benefit. However, this continued imbalance goes on, this loss of microbial diversity. GERD it goes from heartburn to GERD. And then it gets worse and worse and worse, because what it means is you don't have hydrochloric acid in your stomach, and you can't kill the pathogens coming into your world. Your stomach is your sterilization tank, so you're not killing these pathogenic organisms. You must have hydrochloric acid to digest protein. So guess what happens when you don't have enough of the digestive enzymes? That protein from your stomach goes into the small intestine and it rots. It literally sits there and rots, and you have no ability to digest it. So it passes on through the colon and creates all other problems. It creates a lot of imbalance in women with their hormones. We wouldn't think that. Undigested protein can cause estrogen imbalances in women. Remember what I said? It's back to the gut. Back to the gut. We see it down the spike there, down the hill, but we don't realize it as it's happening to us. And that's why I wanted to bring this imbalance to your awareness. So then, what begins to happen long term are inflammatory conditions, like we were saying, autoimmune, and then you have some people it's, inflammatory conditions, some people it's skin issues, some people it's, you feel a digestive symptom, IBS, SIBO, constipation, you could have allergies, all of it manifests in us differently. So these are conditions that are associated with long-term consequences. So in looking at when you get to here, it's a trek getting back in the other direction. But I want to say it's been done over and over and over again. And I have wonderful people that shown up today to tell me thank you. Yes?
Do you mind explaining SIBO and SIBO?
Oh, yeah. This? Does anybody been diagnosed with SIBO in the audience? Okay. SIBO is called small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. Okay, this is what it means. It's just what I said a while ago. The bacteria, when you don't have much bacteria in your stomach because it's hydrochloric acid in there, it kills it. When the food leaves the stomach in the duodenum, in the first part of your small intestine, you should not have much bacteria. It should be relatively sterile. Your bacteria begins to colonize in the latter part of your small intestine called the ileum and your colon. That's where most of the bacteria begins to colonize, even the good guys. Well, remember I talked about the colon reversing itself backwards while you sleep. If you've got a lot of food in your stomach, that can happen. But the SIBO means that the small intestine is now overgrown with negative bacteria. And the symptoms from it are all over the board. It can be brain fog. It can be mood disorders. It can be skin issues. There's a lot of different things that manifest as SIBO. Before, in my time, we called it IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. But that meant you could either have IBS, constipation, or diarrhea. And quite frankly, the GI doctors have no solution.
That's right, that's right. You need to talk to the GI doctors.
Oh, God, yeah.
Seriously.
They don't know anything.
25 years, right, yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little funny story. A lady called her 800 number yesterday, before I left yesterday, and was my sister's on our 800 number. And she said, "Brenda, I got to tell you the funny story." She gives me the lady's name in Texas, and of course I'm Southern, and I'm not from Texas, I'm from North Carolina, but she said, "Brenda, you'd love to hear this woman talk, because she's Southern," and she's 86 years old, and she's kind of fed up with doctors, and so she goes to this doctor, woman doctor, and she's trying to explain to the doctor her GI problem, right? And so she tells the doctor, "I think that I have leaky gut." And the doctor looked at her and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. What is that?" So this 86-year-old lady begins to explain to this doctor what leaky gut is. So at the end of it, the doctor looks totally surprised, and she tells the lady, she says, "I don't really know what that is, and I don't know how I can help you." So she's at the end of a rope, you know how we get, so she's at the end of the rope. She finally stands up, she said, "Well, here's what you can figure out. I'm not paying this bill, because I've come in here and educated you on leaky gut.
gosh.
You've given me zero.
And you
So
got me.
I'm walking out of
Yes.
here. You figure out how to get my
Oh,
money,
good
because
for
I'm done."
her.
Yay!
Yay! Wow.
And I said, "Well, she's got some spunk, you know what I
All
mean?"
those doctors tell me, give me my money back.
Brenda, talk about your customer service line. Tell them what that is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Customer service is on everything we have. You'll see it. If I've got anything on here, you'll probably see this at the bottom. It's a picture, and this is very important. And so many people call us from health food stores and go, "A real person is on the other
Yeah.
line." And we've been answering questions from people for almost 25 years. Now, my sister's one of the people on the line. She's been answering questions for 20 years. So we're real good at it. What happens is people come in the health food store with an issue, and maybe it's something that they want us to answer if it's around digestion, so they call us. And we sit and talk to every single person. We make sure that we call everyone back that day, and if we don't, we leave a message with them or an email and let them know that they can call us the next day and we will help them. That's because people need help today, and they want to talk to people, you know.
Right.
And we're inundated today with the internet, and with this heals this, and this
Yeah.
heals this, and
Yeah.
this heals this. It's confusing, and I will tell you, there's no one product that heals everything. That is
Right.
just not true. So you've got to be a little bit kind of like being able to discern the information. Sometimes I kind of look at someone who's like, I don't know, and I don't mean this in a bad way, that's like 20 years old telling me about something, and I'm like, how many people have you treated, right? I mean, it's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
You go back and say, I don't know about this one. So anyway, our customer service, SIBO means it's fungus.
Oh.
That means it's fungus. This means it's a bacteria. This is rampant. And only way we know it today that this used to be this, IBS, and it's this, is because of the naturopathic doctors. They had people coming in with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Do you realize how rampant that is? There's probably 80% of you in this audience that have it. Okay? How do you know you have it? You don't sometimes. You know, you typically think, well, if someone has a fatty liver, they're overweight, or, you know, they have some problem. They're not. Like I was saying, I've got a 14-year-old girl, 14, with fatty liver. And the best way to look at it is ultrasound. So you can, even if you didn't have insurance, I was telling someone today, $100 you can get an ultrasound on your liver and look at your liver, because they can tell through ultrasound if it's fatty. Because sometimes your liver enzymes in your blood work won't show it. They'll seem normal. You don't necessarily have to have elevated liver enzymes. Take an ultrasound, just like you do with your thyroid. In women with thyroid issues, what do? You get an ultrasound. It can tell if there's benign growths on it. It can tell if the thyroid's too big. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can tell with ultrasound, and it's not an expensive diagnostic test. So SIBO and SIFO, I work with Dr. William Davis. I don't know if you ever read the book Wheat Belly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Super good.
He's a cardiovascular doctor, and he delved really heavily into SIBO and CFO and IBS, and he thinks that anyone with any long-term issue, whether it's arthritis, cardiovascular health, they have it. And I begin to agree. Now, when you look at fatty liver, where the liver has enlarged and it's got fat in it, one of the things to understand about that is the areas in that liver that are fatty are dead. They're dead. They have absolutely no benefit to you whatsoever. And the way that you reduce fatty liver is you reduce the fat in the liver. So the liver has to be given good food. It has to be detoxifying you well. And I will say that in the world we live in, because there's so many toxins we don't see, you know what I mean? Or there's toxins and pesticides on our food that we don't see, but the average person is carrying around, I think, about 144 different chemicals in their blood all day long. Some of them are the chemicals that stay there and just recirculate. Some of them are coming in and out due to whatever we're using. Yes?
I wanted to say, I listened to a talk on Dr. Zach Bush. And
I'll repeat this so you guys can hear it.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
they just released research that said the #1 cause of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is glyphosate exposure.
It's what?
Glyphosate, Roundup.
Roundup.
Oh.
They're saying it's dependent on Roundup. That is a factor. Definitely a factor. That's a part of the chemicals we don't see. See, in our world, folks, there's, you know, everything outgasses, our carpets, our furniture, and all that. We're breathing that in and out all day long. We have, again, the pesticides in our food. Go to environmentalworkinggroup.org and get your list of the vegetables that you need to get organic if you can. No one can eat all organic food. It's not possible. However, you want to do with certain foods, tomatoes, strawberries, some of these you really want to keep organic if you can, because they're highly sprayed. And that's what's happening is our livers are overworked. And then you get the people on the internet going, well, your body should detoxify naturally. Oh, well, when? When we were hunter-gatherers and we had no chemicals here and we didn't have the chemical companies poisoning us and then the food companies poisoning us. It's just a whole bunch of things that's happened, and we're the kind of the victims of it, you know. And then you're in here trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Why do I have brain fog? Why am I tired all the time? Why do I have why do I have thyroid issues? All of these problems, because and they found, the President's Council found 75% of cancer was from environmental toxins. Wow. 75%. And I can't tell you the amount of people I see today with cancer over and over and over again. So what happens is we have this downflow.
Brenda, quick question.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
So sorry to stop you. I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. Did you say that most people who have fatty liver disease, well, let me try this. Most people who have IBS could potentially have fatty liver disease, right? Even if it's not an alcoholic fatty liver disease. Interesting, because I just moved here from upstate New York. I've had a stomach specialist my whole life, and I've had IBS. They don't talk to you about that. And I'm sitting here and I'm like just looking at like I see liver supplements. Like, is it something that, you know, I'm sure there's other people with various things, but is that something that
I can't hear you well.
I know, sorry, I'm trying to speak up. Is it something that I should consider if I've had IBS my whole life, sadly? Is that something that, you know, I should check into fatty liver disease?
Absolutely.
Just read your book.
Liver supplements and things like that?
Yes. Read Gut
Read her book
Extinctions.
and buy her products. Just
I must have some fans in this audience
You
tonight.
Definitely have fans.
Okay, so if we're looking at this, the long-term consequences, and then what I look at now is, where are you? Where are you? The big piece here, people's food. The big piece is food. And that's a confusing subject. And I know most of you get confused with it. I get confused with it myself. However, with all of my issues that I had in my journey to health, I just had to let some things go, you know. And when you let some things go, the trade-off is great because you feel better, you know. And I decided a long time ago, and this, I know for some people this would be sort of not good, but I just don't love food anymore to the point that it makes me sick. That's what I don't. don't do. And if it's sugar, simple carbs, gluten, whatever it is, clean up your diet. And you have all the resources here to do that, and all the education and all the support and help. So what you want to start doing is moving up the ladder. Now, having said that, improving the diet. Are you always going to eat well? No, you're not. You want to eat well 80% of the time, 20% of the time, you do what you want to. And there's so much research out there. It's not what you do once in a while, it's what you do every day. And if you keep yourself on a pace with a lot of good vegetables and good lean proteins and things like that, then you can build back your health. But the addiction that we have to sugar is insidious, and that messaging has been clearly given to us from the food companies. They've addicted us to sugar and high fructose corn syrup and all these things, and that's where we've ended up. So the 80-20 rule is really important. And then we have detox and cleanse. And a lot of people had raised their hands that they cleanse. Okay, so I started a step program about 20 years ago in cleansing, because this was where I got my baseline of good health. Is I had every type of migraine, lost my hair, I have allergies to mold, and I've been through that whole mold process, and that was horrible. I've had Lyme. I mean, I've had a lot of serious illness, and I've been able to, through this process, get better. Now, I want to say this is not something that happens in 2 weeks, but you've got to, if you're bad enough and you feel bad enough and you want to get better, then you'll diligently work through it. And in each of these phases, I give diet suggestions. Okay, it's not that I'm not saying what diet. Some people are low carb, paleo, vegan. I mean, it's all over the board. And sometimes with some of these diets that people are on, it restricts a practitioner like me from helping them, because there are certain reasons that maybe they're vegan, maybe it's, you know, a philosophy, I don't know. But I'm just saying, good quality protein, good quality vegetables, this should be the mainstay of our diet. Some fruits, that's fine, but that should be the mainstay of our diet. And if you want to have sugar, have it. Don't have it all the time. But it's addictive. And I will tell you, it's so addictive, even over the holidays, right? When I start doing that, then I wake up about January 5th and go, ooh, I want it every day. I want it every day. It's an insidious addiction. And any of us that come from addictive personalities, it's even worse. And I was talking, my sister was, I watched her the end of last year, not the one that's on the phone, but my other sister, eat sugar, sugar, sugar. And I kept saying, you're going to have a rough time when you come off of that. She said, I already know, it's 4 days. I know, I got 4 days I'm going to feel bad. And I'm like, okay. And so anyway, that's the story. So we're going to talk here about cleansing. Step 1 in cleansing is you need to get your colon moving well. Moving well. This is sort of your sewer system, so to speak. It's where the majority of your good bacteria is, and you need to keep that good bacteria high. So the first step is, if you cleanse the colon, the liver starts getting better, the spleen starts getting better, your small intestine starts getting better, the gases that are up here that are producing methane and hydrogen that's creating a liver problem, that starts getting better. So the first thing we want to do is something called total body cleansing. That's 14 days on this program. Inside the box, I have all the diet suggestions that you can do to help with the process, and so we'll talk about that in a moment. So that's number 1. And then we go from there to number 2 is, no, I'm sorry, number 1, we talk about the vital cleanse. Let me find the right thing. Yeah. So if we're looking at vital cleanse, it's a total body detox. And so you've got 3 to 4 ways toxins get into the blood. Listen, this is such a simple concept. What do you want to be cleaned up. And what feeds the cells, tissues, and organs of your body?
Blood.
You're exactly right, the blood, okay? Ultimately, through all of this stuff I'm talking about, it's clean that bloodstream up. And you know how I know? Because the blood sends oxygen, but it also sends your nutrients, your vitamins, your minerals, your antioxidants to your organs. So in this situation, you're bringing in toxins from the lungs, you breathe them in, you're bringing them in through the skin. That's why sweating is so important, to sweat. And then you're bringing them through the gut and the intestines. The big guy there in the middle is your filtration system for your blood. That has to filter all of that out through these organs, the lungs, the colon, the skin, and the kidneys. Those are filtration systems in your body. So you want, when the toxins come in, you want them flowing through the liver and then out of the body. Now, when you have leaky gut and something going on here in the intestines, remember what I said, undigested proteins, undigested gluten proteins, all these proteins, if that gut wall is open to your bloodstream, then those macro molecules enter your blood, float around, and cause your immune responses in your body, your IgG, IgE, and all these immune responses. So ultimately, you want to close that gap. You want to close that leaky gut, because think of it this way. It's like the screen on the window of your house. It lets air in, keeps the bugs out.
Right.
This screen in your gut should let vitamins and minerals and nutrients into your bloodstream for nutrition. That's how you have healthy cells, tissues, and organs. So if everything from that gut wall is leaking into your bloodstream and circulating throughout your body, you're going to get sick. And you're going to get sick over time. It manifests itself, folks, in different ways. Some people get allergies. Some people get all types of different conditions. A lot of that can be predisposed to genetics, you know, where you get sick. So it's very important that we want to focus on the liver and then these organs. Specifically, you want that colon to moving. Now, let's talk about that. It's really healthy for you to have a bowel movement every day. Is everybody doing that in this audience? No, I don't think so. Okay, and people look, well, how much would you have? So let's look at see the colon up there? It's 5 feet long if you stretched it out in the average person. Okay? An elimination every day in an average person would be 16 ounces, or about 1.25 feet. How many people are doing that?
I got a bit or more now.
That's great. And what that means is you've got fiber in your diet.
That's right.
Because fiber is what
Right.
builds that bulk in there and creates healthy bacteria and healthy bowel movements. So for those of you that are afraid to take fiber, or you think it tastes bad, or it doesn't mix good, whatever the consideration is that you have, get over it.
Do it.
Yeah, just get over it and move on. So that's what we have here. So we're going to work in the first step on the organs of detoxification and getting that liver functioning better, okay? Then the next thing that we do is we go to herbs. Herbs are just like, in many ways, like doctors use, you know, a PDR, physician's desk reference. We have them for herbs. And the beauty of herbs is they've been used for thousands of years. And herbs target different things. They have different ways that they function in our body. So for example, artichoke is a liver, I don't want to say the word purgative because it's not like that. It stimulates the liver, because remember I said the liver stores toxins and becomes fatty. So one of the ways that we get the fat reduction in the liver is through some herbs. These herbs are called choleretic because they stimulate bile flow. The reason your liver becomes constipated, just like your colon, is bile, B-I-L-E, is not flowing out of that liver through the gallbladder. And if you don't have a gallbladder, you can still have good liver function, okay? So if you don't, there's other things that you can do to help that out, but it's not a death sentence, that's for sure. So you've got things like artichoke and dandelion. What these herbs do is they stimulate that liver to let go of bile. What does bile consist of? 3 things. Bile salt, which is the way that you digest fat. It contains toxins, okay, any type of chemical that I showed you had to filter through, and it contains cholesterol, estrogens, and things like that, because the liver gets an excess of cholesterol, we all know that, an excess of estrogens and different hormones, and the way it gets rid of them is to throw it into the digestive system through bile, and the fiber that you consume soaks it up and carries it out through the colon elimination. So that's number one. It's a very good process. God made a very good body. It works well if we let nature help us, right? So we've got dandelion, milk thistle, another liver herb. I'm very heavy on the liver. Your yellow dock, your mullein, your burdock. These help. Each of these herbs, I've got more than that, I just wanted to give you some, are in these channels, help these channels of elimination here and get your body circulating and get it circulating better. So that's step 1. Step 2 in this same kit is your colon stimulation. I use magnesium hydroxide. I'm very big on that. We're mostly deficient in magnesium anyway. However, the hydroxide of magnesium brings water into the colon, and if you're having, elimination issues, it helps you. And then we use herbs, marshmallow, slippery elm, triphala. These are some of the strengthening herbs for your colon. So in this way, we have the part 1 is more liver, lung, skin, and then part 2 is colon. So you've got that in a kit. You take them both, morning and night. It's very, very simple. You do not have to fast. I do recommend that you look at your diet and do what you can to make it better and get off the sugar. That's the way it should work, okay? How many people in here eat a lot of sugar? You.
Maybe.
Well, you're the only one. You're the only one with enough guts to admit it, right? Sitting in a health food store. Not me. Right.
I just want to mention something about sugar.
Okay.
Because I think people don't realize this, and it really helped me when I this is documented that the big sugar companies, Domino, all these big sugar companies are heavily invested in diabetic medication.
Of course.
Oh,
It's huge. Yes.
Yeah. So we have the that's step 1. That's a whole body cleanse, and I'll give some other things with that in a moment. And then the next step is fungus. We are loaded with fungus, and an unhealthy fungus. Remember I said there's good yeast, because it's part of our microbiome, and there's very negative yeast. And the reason they become overgrown, become overgrown with yeast in our gut is because they like sugar, and they eat it, and then they take over your environment. Remember, bacteria and yeast are opportunistic. Anytime they get their foot in the door, they're going to multiply, and that's the way it works. So what I like to see is people do a whole body cleanse. You can wait a week or 2, or you can start it right away. It's your choice. You don't have to go from one to the other. And this is an antifungal program, an antimicrobial for this area up here I was talking about that gets all that methane production going on and killing that fungus off. I've never seen so much of it as I see now in people. And the reason you crave sugar is because it's craving sugar.
yeah.
And
Are
it
you
likes it.
offering a binder for when that die-off happens?
Yes, of fibers. I don't have, I was going to bring that in later,
Yeah.
but you have to have fiber. With any cleanse that you're doing, you must have fiber.
Right, because that could be pretty wicked. So I'm
Yeah.
looking at some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing. If you've never done this before, start the program at half strength. So instead of 2, you do 1 for a few days, and then move yourself into it. Because she's right. If you're killing off a lot of organisms, they got to go
Too
back to
much.
the liver.
Yeah.
And if you put fiber in there, it'll soak them up, and it goes out through your colon elimination. So these are capsules. Uva ursi is an herb that's been used for centuries to help with fungus. And then we have the other ones in there, the andrographis, the undecanoic acids. because many times over the years, yeast overgrowth in the gut was discovered in the 1970s by women. And not from, you know, women's organs, it was from the gut. So what happened is there was a doctor in Tennessee, William Crook, back in the 70s, and women kept coming to him going, I'm fatigued, I've got brain fog. My doctor says I need to see a psychiatrist because they can't find anything wrong with me.
Right.
And this Dr. Crook and another doctor called Orrin Truss started investigating it and helping women to figure this out, and that was the whole movement on understanding yeast overgrowth in the gut, not vaginally, not in the UTI necessarily, but in the gut. So we want to use, and what women typically did then is they'd go to the health food store and buy caprylic acid. But what happens is, if you use the same antifungals over and over and over again, just like antibiotics, they don't work anymore. So be very, very careful. You want to trade things around, because I have two different fungal cleansers, and this is the first one. This is a capsule, and this is a tincture. And so again, if you've got problems, start it half strength, and always add fiber. So when yeast comes out of the body and you start having a problem with it, it creates a lot of these problems. Athlete's foot's one of them. Fungus on the feet, skin rashes, you know, UTI problems can occur for women and also for men. Not just us guys, men too can get these fungal problems, and then you have fungus that gets in your heart. You know, a lot of people, we have a friend right now down in Miami, at the University of Miami, and he got a fungal infection in his gut, and it's now in his heart, and he's probably going to have heart valve replacement due to the fungus, because they went in there with a scan that they did and found there's yeast in that heart. This is a very serious condition that we shouldn't take lightly because it's in the gut now. It's going other places because of what? Leaky gut.
Yep.
Leaky gut opens you up, your bloodstream up to all of these things, and then the poor old liver's in there trying to filter it all out, and then you have these people out there who have absolutely no sense whatsoever telling you that you just detoxify everything well, we don't need to do anything about it, and that's just like going to a doctor who knows nothing. That's what that is. So it's important that we understand the candida. Now the next step I have is something called vital detox. It is also good for SIBO or SIFO, but it's also an antifungal, antimicrobial. It's just different herbs, okay? So in here we've got more of your oregano, your thyme, your clove, but the other piece of this is the liver. I'm always trying to support the liver from the diet. So in here you've got your amino acid complex, your herbal support with milk thistle, quercetin, green tea extract, and dandelion. Remember, dandelion's a very important herb for the liver. So this is another program, and with the CandiPure and the Vital Detox, you can push them, you can do one and then do the other, you know what I mean? And again, this process that I'm sharing with you is not something you do. You don't have to do it all at once. You could do it over a period of several months, just going from one to the other. If you want to take a break in between, take a break. Because I've had people in here that have done it.
Brenda, how often should you do these? I haven't done them in a while, and I'm feeling like I should do this.
You do cleansing a couple of times a year.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
what I was
usually
thinking.
spring and fall
Yeah,
is a good time.
Just like your house.
And so these part ones are kind of, they're both for liver,
Spring.
The whole body
cleanse
and
and
the
the
Vital
vital
Detox.
detox one.
Mhm.
Okay, so they're
Yeah.
complementary.
Right, they're complementary, right. Okay, so that's those. And then the last one, which is really pretty big right now, is ParaPure, parasite cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
So has many people seen this online much?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's big. People are
Yeah.
doing it. It's amazing because my first product that I made in 1997 was a parasite cleanse. That's how long ago it was. So I had clinics, so I had patients. And the parasites, this is ParaPure. I suggest, actually we'll go forward one and then back. So how do we get them?
You eat them.
We get them from eating raw food. We get them from travel, infected water. They're mostly microscopic. You're not seeing them unless they are a worm, like this. I've got a friend next door, because our animals can be a problem sometimes, and she had this all over her legs, like little round spots. And guess what she had? Ringworm.
Ringworm.
You know where she got it from? Her dog.
Like that, yeah.
Right? So the dog had it on the paw, it got in her, and her legs from here to here were covered in ringworm. And when she showed it to me, I'm like, that looks like ringworm. Well, I'm from the South, and let me tell you, from the South, you don't get near ringworm because it's very contagious. I can hear my mother right now in my ear going, don't touch that, right? So you get ringworm, and it's pretty devastating. And because our immune system are depressed, we pick these things up. Ideally, your body should fight off parasites.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to worry about this. But because we can't take the stress of the chemicals and toxins in our environment anymore, it pounds on us all the time. So you're walking barefoot, you get them through the feet. You know, the biggest community of people who do parasite cleansing, the Amish and the Mennonites. Big deal, because their kids are out in the cow poo, walking in cow poo, barefooted in the summer. They go through pallets of parasite cleanses because they're more natural in their nature.
That's really good though, because they're eating healthy food.
It's amazing. I've done a lot of work up with Amish in Pennsylvania, and I had that impression until I got there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the story. I went up there because we had these Amish farmers and wanted me to come up and talk about parasites. And I got up there. It was quite an experience. They end up at this big farm with 100 buggies. Right? I got 100 buggies out there, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And they all come in with their kids, and they bring the whole family in, and you're trying to help them. They have a chiropractor there and someone else. However, I found them to be very ill, for the most part. Yeah, they have a lot of sugar addiction, so they eat a lot of flour and chocolate pie and those types of things. And I just found them not to be as healthy as I thought. I'm going back up there. Now they're calling me again. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going back up there. It's kind of overwhelming. But anyway. So we have international travel, and then we have, these are some of the things that occur, the symptoms that can occur that we don't relate to parasites. So, you know, many people that have gone out of the country can pick them up. Here's the big key. If you don't have stomach acid, you're going to pick them up. So my key is, in people that are getting older, I would just say, probably from 50 years on, if you're traveling, you need to take with you an enzyme with hydrochloric acid in it to take with your meals, and a probiotic. Those two things will really help you if you're traveling in and out of the country, because the acid, putting the acid in the stomach is at least going to kill anything that enters. So if you look at the parasite formulas are usually with black walnut and wormwood, pasha. However, these are strong, okay? The reason I want you to build to them is they're strong, and you can have what's called Herxheimer's reaction, which means that you're overcome with toxins and you may feel flu-like. I don't want that to happen. So again, start at half strength. If you work through this process, you're going to find a better result at the end. So that's the parasites. Always do time your parasite through the full moon, okay? People think that's a fiction, but it's fact. The parasites in our body begin to move when the moon is full. You know, the moon does a lot in our body. It's gravitational pull, it's women's menstrual cycles. That's what all of it's controlled by, is the moon. So when the moon is full, the parasites are going to move. If they're in the liver, they'll move out, they'll move around. So what you want to do is 3 days before the full moon, start it, or if you've already started it, go through a full moon phase. See what I mean? So you get them, and you have to repeat this because the eggs hatch. So about 2 weeks, a week after you do a kit, you probably need to do a second one just to make sure, because you're going to have the eggs. They hatched. So, in any cleansing process, we want to support it with fiber. And the vital fiber, I'll bet you there's not a person in here that wouldn't love vital fiber, the taste of it. It's pea, hemp, and flax. It's organic.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
No, it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. And that's really important. Only in the whole body cleanse do you have any sort of colon stimulation. And the reason that is if people have candida or parasites, they usually have diarrhea. So I couldn't put anything in there. If you are constipated and you're cleansing, the whole body cleanse does. The first one I went to, the step 1, that has a colon formula in it. The Candida Pure, the Vital Detox, and this one does not. And the reason is because I had parasite products before. If they had any colon stimulation in them, people had too much loose stool, and I just had to stop that. So if you have constipation, then add in the Vital Lax, the magnesium, so that you've got to go to the bathroom every day. Okay, every single day you want to have elimination. We have something else called Gut Renew. For anybody with GERD or reflux or leaky gut, this is 6,000 milligrams of L-glutamine. It's an amino acid. It has also 10,000 milligrams of organic aloe, DGL, and slippery elm. And what this does is it's a powder, and you take it on an empty stomach, and the cells, all the way from the esophagus through the digestive tract, the cells of the small intestine use it for food and make new cells. Every 3 to 5 days, you shed the whole digestive tract lining with cells. You go to the bathroom, you take a shower in the morning, what are you shedding off? Skin cells. We do the same thing internally. Every 3 to 5 days, we're shedding off the whole gut lining, and ideally, if you don't want inflammation, you're making new cells. And that's what keeps the gut lining intact and together. So in the Gut Renew, if you started, and leaky gut can start up here with the inflammation with GERD and reflux. It can go through the stomach with ulcers. It can be in the small and large intestine with leaky gut. IBS is another piece of it. So all of these, this is probably, if anyone has reflux and GERD and they take this, they're never going to do without it. I can tell you that. It's a great formula. And then we also have the Vital Life. So again, to reiterate, you need fiber, and we have the Vital Fiber. And so we look at fiber 2 ways. In nature, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains all have both of these fibers, insoluble and soluble. Okay? That's nature. When we take fiber in to us from a supplement source, you want to lean towards one or the other or a combo of both. So the sponge I use as an analogy. Soluble fiber is the yellow part of the sponge. It soaks stuff up in the gut. What's that stuff? Estrogens, cholesterol, balances your blood sugar, balances your weight, because you lose weight with fiber, soluble fiber. So you've got the soluble type of fiber, and it's also a prebiotic. It's the type of fiber that feeds the good bacteria and your probiotics, your good bacteria. So you've got fiber, and then you've got the insoluble, which is the roughage. That's what I say with the green part of the sponge. That's what gives you the bulk that you need to have good elimination. So in nature, I'll give you an example. A zucchini, the peeling of the zucchini is insoluble. The inside of it is soluble. So in all of nature, we have both parts of the fiber. um,